Hey everyone, John Harper, founder of Hackers Teaching Hackers, back with you for another HTH CTF solve from 2024. We're going to be looking at I'll PCAP. So I'm going to start sharing my screen out by request. All right, so with I'll PCAP, obviously you'll be downloading the I'll PCAP zip. Little play on Arnold Schwarzenegger's I'll Be Back. Let's go ahead and go into that folder. All right, so we're gonna extract it. That's just 7Z for extract with the file name. You could, of course, do it through the GUI by doing right-click extract here. I just like to show command line. And it is, in fact, a PCAP, so you can strings PCAPs if there's some plain text in there. Yeah, I'm just gonna open it up in Wireshark because that's how it was sort of intended to be. Might take a little second to load because we are dealing with a 191.1 megabyte PCAP. If you are not familiar with using Wireshark, it can be a little intimidating at first if you've never used it, but there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do, such as going to stats. You can look at conversations. You can look at the protocol hierarchy. You can start searching inside the PCAP for strings. You can start exporting files actually. So if there was a file transfer during that PCAP, you can actually export it back to a normal file again. So as I'm looking at the protocol hierarchy, took a little second to load there because it's a lot of data. We can see there was only 2 packets of UDP. We had a lot of TCP. There's some RPC. Looks like there's some NetBIOS. We got some SMB, so file share services, things like that. Looks like there was 100 packets for HTTP as well. So yeah, so just interesting just to kind of look at, what's in here. Like I said, you can go into find packet. You can change, the display filter to a string. Look for things like HTH, for example, and it'll dig through and find anywhere where there was HTH in a packet. So things like, oh, cool, they were actually mapping a HTH SMB share, for example. We can see it's SMB2 here. You can follow the conversation and reassemble the packets and all kinds of things like that. What I'm going to do is actually go to File and Export Objects. In this case, it's going to show you which objects it thinks it got. There's going to be HTTP since we saw 100 packets in there. So we'll go ahead and export all the HTTP objects back to a normal file. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for this, just called HTTP. And then in here, I'm going to save all of the files into the HTTP folder. I just like to be organized. All right, cool. So that is all done. If we open it up, we can see there's 48 files that were part of HTTP traffic. So if we scroll down through some of that, just kind of looking at it manually, because it's only 48 files, it's not a lot, right? We can see there's like a fave icon. These look like just HTML. We can see there is an HTH logo. There is a HTH-CTF.txt file. That's interesting. So we just open that up, take a look here. So if we were doing things like strings in here, or we were grepping for matching, patterns, we would have definitely picked this file up because we would have seen things like HTH, CTF, flag, HTH 2024, and perhaps the flag brackets. So this is just a punk file rabbit hole, nothing to it in here. But as we're scrolling through, just I don't know, that's what we get here. All right, so if we go into command line, what we can do is we can kind of dig into this a little deeper. So if you're familiar with some of the CTFs that I've done in the past, a lot of times I'll manipulate magic file headers. So for example, like with Haystack, I created a lot of bogus files to fill in the Haystack with things that if you ran file against it, it actually does look like the file because I manipulated the magic header of the file as well as the extension. So we could do things like we could grab for HTH 2024 through all these files. And once again, there's our goat file. We could strings all the things, just oop, oops, if you actually type strings, and get all the, plain text basically out on the screen and to start looking for things that might be interesting. There's a lot of things we could do here. If you run an individual file command on any of the files in there, so I'll just hit tab for tab complete, and you run that, you're going to get the file name first and a colon, and then you're going to get the type of file that it is, and it's a little bit more information perhaps about that file. Uh, but what would be good probably is just to see if all of these files actually match their MIME type, right? The MIME type being the actual file that they are. So what we could do for that is we could just run file, and we could do dash dash MIME type and then star. And that will list all the files in here with their matching MIME type, just as a short view of file, right? So if we go through and we look at this, we see that all of these actually are pretty much text HTML. As we're flipping through, we see, okay, so this DLL actually is a JPEG image. It's not a DLL. Everything else doesn't really stand out. There's obviously that image. It actually is a JPEG. So that's really kind of only interesting things there. So that app v policy DLL is actually a JPEG. So let's just move it back to what it is. I'll call it JPG. So if I do that, I'm going to refresh. Sometimes it doesn't load right. Yep, cool. So we can see that it actually is basically just a copy of the HTH logo. Sometimes what I'll do in CTFs is I'll use the least significant bit for stuff. So I'm just going to call this like HTH2 just for simplicity. So if I've done the least significant bit, meaning I've stuffed some data into the back end of it, like an image file, sometimes you'll see like base64 encoding or things like that in there. So I'm going to dig in there and see if I can't find it. So not strings. What we'll do for that is we'll trail. We're going to tail the last two lines of anything that matches HTH with a JPEG format, since I just renamed that to JPEG. So there's the last two files, or the last two lines of the last files. Nothing in here in the last. So here's HTH2. This is the new one that I just renamed. I didn't see anything interesting in there. And there's nothing really interesting in the end of the first one. So it doesn't appear that there's any least significant bit things going on unless maybe it's like some sort of encryption. But even then, I don't see a lot of randomness that you would see with encryption. So it must not be that, right? So what we'll do is let's take a look. This is that DLL file that I renamed to JPEG, which actually is a JPEG. And let's open that with like GNU image editor. Sometimes in CTFs, you'll see people manipulate, images as well. So we'll take a look at that. So one of the things you can do is you can adjust the background color, the the contrast. You can turn that up and down, things like that. I'm just going to use the bucket fill, and in here I'm going to fill by similar color. I'm going to set the threshold all the way down to 0. So basically, how much bleed over you want with similar colors, right? I don't want any bleed over. And I'm going to change the background color to say like red, and try it here. All right, cool. So that's where the flag was. So what I had done apparently here was paste in the flag in a slightly off black color. So the flag is actually HTH PCAPs forward to win. So I hope this one was another fun one for you. I know that was a lot of digging through the PCAP just for finding something you couldn't strings, but yeah, hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.